Good evening. It is our fourth Thursday live for home ownership month in June. Today is all about new construction. So I want you guys to put all of your questions in the comments. I'm going to start off with 5 things that you need to know and be prepared for as a first-time home buyer that's thinking about buying new construction. If this is your first time here, I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So, hi, Jeanette Santiago, I see you. I am good. Hello from Los Angeles. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're talking, as I said, about new construction, but I want to be really clear that I'm talking about the major builders, like you buying from one of the major builders, like D.R. Horton, Lennar. This is not all of them, but D.R. Horton is like the number one builder, and this is based on revenue. Lennar, Pulte Homes, Toll Brothers, NVR, they're not in my area, but NVR is on here, Taylor Morrison, KB Homes, like buying from one of those large builders. If you're thinking about building a home on your own land, like purchasing the land and building the home, I have another video for that. But that's what today is not about. Today is about going and buying, the land and the home at the same time, probably from a major builder in your area. So we're going to focus on that. Thank you guys. Go ahead and put where you're coming from into the chat. And let me go here. And I went out for a second. Okay, I'm back. I actually live in a D.R. Horton home. So I live in a D.R. Horton home. I know when I posted, I was going to talk about new construction. This house is, I should have done this math, probably about 18 years old. And it's holding up well. I'm the third owner. So I'm the third owner of this home, but I like it. They're not building my model anymore anywhere. At least they're not building it in Georgia anymore, but I like it. I know there are other people that have a lot of issues with D.R. Horton homes. Some people are fine with them, but I actually live in a D.R. Horton home and I don't have any problems with it. So let me go on to my 5 things. Thank you guys. I'm gonna pick a few of you. Regina from Forest Park, Georgia. Miss Smile from Houston. A lot of new construction happening in Houston. Jesse says, I've been looking at D.R. Horton or Pulte Homes. And let me see what else I have. Diana. Hi, Diana. She's been on a lot of these lives lately. So this is our new construction live. Start putting your questions about new construction in the chat. So I'm going to go over the 5 things that I have. All right. So this live again is about getting ready for new construction. So number 1, you do not have to use a preferred lender. So when you go into a new construction community, they will typically, almost all of them, have incentives if you use one of their preferred lenders. So sometimes the lender is, a company that's with the builder. For example, D.R. Horton has DHI Mortgage. So it's a mortgage company that D.R. Horton owns. So it's kind of in collaboration with the builder, right? Or you'll find other builders that just have, regular mortgage companies, but they may give you 2 or 3 that are their preferred lenders. And typically they're going to offer you an incentive, some kind of promotion, some kind of incentive for you to use one of their lenders. And it's usually closing costs, or maybe it's upgrades. It's going to be something that's going to incentivize you to use their preferred lender. Now, why do they want you to use their preferred lender? Because they want to be able to communicate with that lender to see, are they qualified? When can they close? How much money do they have? They want to be able to communicate with that lender to make sure you are qualified and to buy the home, because they're trying to avoid as much risk as possible by putting a home under contract with someone they're not too sure about. But by law, they cannot force you to use their lender. They can only incentivize you. You can use any lender that you want to buy new construction. But typically, most first-time home buyers will go with the incentives. Now, and if that's the decision you make, I want to make sure that you make that educated. I want you to make sure you make an educated decision. You should still be getting outside quotes to compare to their preferred lenders. For example, if they are offering you $5,000 in closing costs, if you go with their preferred lender and say their interest rate is, a point higher, half a point higher than you can get with the other person, you have to say, okay, what is my break even point to where that $5,000 doesn't make sense for me anymore, right? So say that after you save the $5,000 now, but you're paying, $100, $150 more per month for that, higher interest rate, that sort of thing. So you really want to still make sure that you're getting at least one outside quote that's not a preferred lender. But you don't have to use a preferred lender. A lot of people, when they're doing the math, to them, it makes sense for them to use the preferred lender, but do the math. Some people don't even do the math. Okay, now in the market that we're in, a lot of builders are using, buying down your rate to make it more affordable for you. So it even makes more sense for you to use the preferred lender. But I want you to get at least one outside quote. So the only information that you have isn't just the preferred lender that qualified you. Number two, you can use down payment assistance with a lot of new construction homes, including NACA. Let me say that again, because a lot of people ask, can you use NACA with new construction? Yes, you can use NACA and other down payment assistance programs with new construction. So do your research first about, the down payment assistance programs you qualify for. Then go out to the new construction properties, say this is what you want to use. Now, if their lender does not work with the down payment assistance, you may have to use an outside lender. But again, you can. So you're going to have to see which makes the most sense for you. But a lot of times their preferred lenders, or sometimes their preferred lenders will be one of the preferred lenders with the down payment assistance program. But you have to do your research with that ahead of time. Number three, get your own agent. So a lot of times, first-time home buyers, they see a new subdivision, the subdivision has an office, the model home, and they're just like, on Saturday, we're just going to go and look at the model home and see what's happening, right? And usually they're going to have you register. And when they have you register, you'll fill out your information, right? And in that registration, they'll ask you, are you working with a real estate agent? And if you haven't hired a real estate agent yet, you generally leave that blank. It'll be very difficult for most builders, if you decide that you want to buy in that community, but now you want to use an agent. They'll say, well, when you saw the community initially, you didn't have an agent. So now you cannot have an agent represent you. So you want to make sure that you get an agent, at least the agent's name, before you go into these new construction subdivisions, because it's going to be very difficult for you to add one later. And for the most part, the builder pays your agent. So it's no money out of your pocket. They will pay a commission to your agent. So you don't have to worry about that. And the agent that's on site represents the builder. They never represent you. And they'll list that very clearly in the contract. You want some representation. I try to explain it to people. It's kind of like a divorce, and you're using your spouse's attorney. Like you guys are both using the same attorney, but the person works for your spouse. So when something goes wrong, you have nobody representing you. Okay. You have nobody representing you. So just make sure that you understand that, and you get an agent, your own agent. That agent on site does not represent you. They're basically just doing customer service, helping you with the paperwork, helping you fill it out, but they cannot give you any advice and can't tell you what to ask. They do not represent you. Number 4, get at least one inspection. A lot of people forgo the inspection for new construction because it's under warranty. So most new construction builders offer you a 1-year warranty that covers everything. Anything that goes wrong with the house, it'll be covered. And then, as the years go on, less and less things are covered. Like sometimes just structural items are covered after year 1. But here's the thing. If there's an issue that comes up, they may cover it, but think about the inconvenience to you, because this happened to one of my clients. Think about the inconvenience to you for them to fix that problem. The larger the problem is, the more inconvenience it's going to be. So there was a problem discovered in one of my clients' homes after they moved in. It was covered, but it was a leak behind the wall. So what was happening was the water was accumulating behind the wall. So not only did they have to rip up all the drywall, they had to rip up the flooring, they had to do mold remediation in the house. It took, a month or so, had to fix the pipes, and they offered them nothing. They do all this work, this homeowner, they worked from home. They had to come in, do all of this stuff, took time. She couldn't work. We contacted like 3 attorneys, and all of those contracts are written in the builder's favor. So although they have to fix it, they don't have to put you in a hotel. They don't have to like give you money for the inconvenience. They are just responsible for fixing whatever, they feel like the issue is, but they don't have to reimburse you in any other way. So avoid that. So she did lose money, right? So she couldn't work. She had to leave a couple of times. She lost money in that. So I'd rather you spend money on the inspections and make sure that the builder does everything ahead of time. So if anything comes up after, it's probably going to be minor. You won't have any major issues to deal with. Also, I'm trying to see. There are 3 inspections you can get with new construction. One is just the site before they pour the foundation. You can get one inspection before that. Then you can get one before they put up the walls, so they can see behind the walls. They can see that the electric was run properly. There's nothing behind the walls. Everything's insulated properly. So before they put up the walls, and then you get a final inspection. So it's actually 3 new construction inspections you can get before you buy. And then the last one, and this is not a complete list, but I wanted to give you at least 5 so you can start with. Follow me on my channel, join my Facebook group for more information. Is the HOA. Most new construction subdivisions, whether it's a townhome subdivision, definitely if it's a condo, and if it's a single family subdivision, they're going to have an HOA in most cases. I don't know any new construction subdivisions that they're building now that don't have HOAs. You want to get the covenants for the HOA, the covenants, bylaws, all of that before you sign your contract. Because if there's something that you're planning to do with your home, and thank you guys for joining me. We're up to about 130. If there's something you plan on doing with your home and you already signed your contract, you put down your deposits, your earnest money, and then you read the covenants and you're like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that. I didn't know I couldn't have a shed in my backyard. Oh, I didn't know I couldn't have that kind of fence. You want to know all of that ahead of time. I'll give you an example that one of my clients wanted to have a trampoline, in the backyard. I guess they promised their children a trampoline. You could not put a trampoline in your backyard unless you had a fence. So you're adding a trampoline may cost a few $100s, but a fence may cost a few $1,000s. So you have to, so she knew as soon as she, moved in, not only was she going to have to get a fence almost immediately if she wanted a trampoline, but that was listed in the HOA covenants as to what the rules were, what you could have in your backyard. So you would know that ahead of time, and then you can make a decision about whether or not you wanted to do that. Number 2, another one I want you to be mindful of is rental restrictions. So another client in a townhome community, there was a 10% rental cap. So you can have more than 10% rentals in this subdivision. Mind you, this is new construction, but she came kind of on the back end of, them finishing out the subdivision. And so we got the covenants, we're looking at it, and it said 10%. It was already in like month 3 of the subdivision, they were already at the 10% cap, meaning that people came in immediately and started renting out those units. So if that's something you're planning on doing, that's something that she couldn't do. She'd get on the waiting list if she wanted to rent her unit, but there's some, she couldn't do it immediately. She couldn't probably do it within a few years until some other people came off of that 10% list. So those are some of the things I want you to think about when you're doing new construction. I am still working on those of you, I'm going to my comments. For those of you that follow me, you're in my Facebook group, I'm working on updating my first-time home buyer. I'm doing a new first-time home buyer masterclass that comes with a handbook. Those of you that already have it, you'll get the update as well. But I just want to make sure that you know these things. But in that, I'm going to do a bonus that's just going to be new construction, checklist to make sure you're doing what you need to do in a new construction subdivision. So now, hope that wasn't too much. You can always watch it on the replay. I'm going to answer your questions. So go ahead and put all of your questions into the chat so I could try to get to as many as possible. Okay. I'm going to take this down. All right. So Nakia says, I made it to a live. Happy Thursday. Thank you for making it. Thank you for making it. All right. So I think I answered this question for Dolores. Do new construction builders shy away from NACA? Typically, no. And this is why. The big problem with NACA for a lot of resale buyers is it takes a long time. But what works well with new construction is it takes a long time to build. And, usually there's some issues with the NACA inspectors that are coming. They're special NACA inspectors. So it's a new construction home. There are not going to be that many issues. So NACA actually works better with new construction than it does with resale because there's time. You have time. You have time to go through the process and, get all your NACA stuff done, and, all of that, because most resale sellers don't want to deal with NACA because they want to sell their house in 30 days, right? And NACA can't guarantee them that. But new construction, because you need time to build that home, NACA typically works better for new construction. And usually they have more inventory. So they can take some NACA buyers because they have more inventory. So in my experience, NACA works better with builders. All right, good question. All right, I don't know if this is a question or not. Honeybee says, I'm under contract on a new build. I got $20,000 in incentives to close using the preferred lender. I'm fully approved. They broke ground already, and we're about to schedule the construction. So great job. Okay, yes. So those incentives can be significant. So you'd always want to look and see, and still, I don't care if they give you $100,000. Compare it with somebody outside just in case, right? So you're not just saying, all I looked at was this. I didn't know anything else. All right. I answered that question. All right. Put all your questions in the chat. Make sure, make sure you put a question mark, because sometimes you guys are discussing things amongst yourself. It's easier for me to see. Jarlisica says, when starting a new construction with USDA, can you still ask for closing costs? Who do you closing costs from, and who pays the realtor? So I'm assuming you're talking about new construction. Okay. So yes. So if you are buying a new construction home in a USDA area, typically the builder is still going to offer you an incentive to use their preferred lender. So if it's 100% financing, that's already covered. So anything that they are incentivizing you with is typically closing costs, right? Because builders can't, unless there's some special program, builders can't contribute to your down payment, just like a seller can't contribute to your down payment unless you're using a down payment assistance program. But the rest of the money is typically going to go to your closing costs. Okay. So if they're incentivizing you to use their preferred lender, then that money would go to your closing costs. And then who pays the realtor? The seller. So most cases, the seller or the builder will pay your realtor. Good question. All right. So Martha says, greeting from New York City. I finally closed a first-time home buyer. Thank you for your educational video. Congratulations, Martha. Thank you for coming back and letting me know. Okay. So Kratos 997 says, rate buy down, lower that price. Don't fall for the trap. Now I would say this, a lot of builders are not lowering prices. New construction builders. I just watched, a special that they did on CNBC. Because the demand is still so high, they're making the homes more affordable, but through the rate buy down, right? But they're not lowering the prices in most cases. I think they said on average, builders have lowered their price. I think it was 6%, but that was nationwide. So it may be in some areas more significant than other areas. And this is since, they started raising interest rates. But for the most part, builders are reducing the rate, but they're not lowering the price. And they may not have to based on the demand they're still seeing in the market. New home sales went up 20% from May 2022 till now. And from last month, or I think it was from April to May, it went up 12.2%. So people are still buying new construction homes. It hasn't gone down. All right. So I think I answered this question. Can you use down payment assistance for USDA direct program for closing? Probably not, because USDA direct is directly through USDA, right? So sometimes there's no lender involved. And a lot of those programs are for like you going through a preferred lender. but the seller can help pay your closing costs. So if you need help, if you're using USDA Direct, then you need to try to see if you can get some closing cost assistance from the seller, or you can roll the closing costs into your home price. And you can ask the USDA Direct, people, the administrators of the program, how you can do that. All right, so people are, let me get the questions. All right, what are the out-of-pocket costs to look forward to on a new construction? The only out-of-pocket costs typically is going to be your earnest money. Your earnest money is the amount that you're going to put up that is going to be damages to the builder if you just walk away from the contract. So you can't just put a home under contract and say, I want to put this home under contract and put nothing up. So earnest money is typically going to be your upfront cost. Your earnest money does vary by builder, by location, by state, sometimes by city, by home price. But I would at least 1%, if not more than that. So 1% is typical, but they might go a little bit higher depending on the market. But so plan on you putting down some money in earnest money. Now, when you close, that earnest money will be credited to your purchase. It's not money you're just giving away. So say your earnest money is $5,000 and you needed to bring down payment and everything was going to be $20,000. Because you already gave them the $5,000, then you have to bring $15,000 to closing. So those are going to be some of your upfront costs. There are really no other upfront costs typically. Sometimes if you are paying for upgrades, so if the builder is allowing you to select specific things for your home, sometimes they may ask you to cover usually not 100%. Sometimes it might be 25% or 50% of any of those upgrades. So those might be some of your upfront costs. But a lot of the larger builders, what they started to do is not allow people to pick exactly, like you can't pick what carpet you want with this countertop, with this paint color, because of supply chain issues, because it's more affordable for them just to do it buy flooring and carpeting and everything in bulk. What they'll do is, if you want, white cabinets, then you're going to have this floor, this carpet, this countertop. If you want espresso or darker cabinets, you're going to have this floor, this. So they're basically choosing it for you, and you just you have the choice of which one you want to use. Because prior to the pandemic, they were allowing people to pretty much choose everything. Choose your countertop, choose your backsplash, choose your flooring. Good question. All right, put some more questions in here. And the moderator is posting some of these things. She's posting the Facebook group. She posted that. Okay, let's see. Realtors in my area have told me that the builders, D.R. Horton, Pulte, Lennar, etc., do not allow these phase inspections. So that sucks. I would just double check that. I know I have a client right now under contract on D.R. Horton, and they did allow it. They make sure that your inspector is an approved inspector. So they have a lot of rules around what inspector you can use. But per the contract, you're allowed to have an independent inspector in most cases. But don't quote me on that. It could be a little bit different. But read your contract. In our D.R. Horton contract, we were allowed to have an approved outside inspector, but the inspector had to have a certain amount of insurance, like liability insurance, workers' comp insurance, that sort of thing. So they are making it more difficult, but they still are allowing, at least in Georgia, phase inspections. All right, so thank you so much. Annie says, I really enjoy watching your videos. I'm working my way through them. I have a lot of them. Yes. Hopefully they're organized well enough that I'll take you through it. All right, let's go through it. Does it take long to close on a new construction? Typically, and this could vary as well, it'll take a builder, like the size of the home and all of that, but an average size home typically will take a builder 3 to 4 months to build, in my experience. A lot of the delays in building over the pandemic were due to supply issues for the most part, but typical 3 to 4 months, they should be able to build a house. If the house has already started, then it's even shorter than that. But I would say the typical home takes 3 to 4 months to build, but you want to check with that builder to find out, because you don't want to, if you have like a lease situation, you want to be able to plan for how long that build is going to take. All right, so let's see. What is the average cost first time home buyers spend on upgrades? That's going to vary a lot. Like I said, a lot of the builders are not allowing people to upgrade everything step by step, but it could be another 5%. The people that are allowed that I've had, it could be another $20,000 or so, and that was like maybe on a $400,000 house. But they, it's like light fixtures and upgraded flooring, and whether or not you want carpet on your steps, but they'll have everything kind of written out for you. So I don't know if there's an average, but you may want to, put another 5% or so, depending on how, because you have a base price. So they'll put in everything standard in that home. That's your base price. But if you want to upgrade things like your fixtures, your lighting, I'm trying to think. A lot of people didn't put carpet on their steps, over the last 2 years. That was like a big upgrade. If you wanted like a different type of patio, if you wanted a covered patio, those are more expensive, but it's going to vary by your state, your location, and the cost of your home. All right, good question. All right, some people, y'all having a good conversation. All right, so tonight I'm talking about new construction only for the most part. If you have some general questions, you can put them in. I'm going to prioritize, because that's our topic for today. I'm going to prioritize new construction questions so I can try to, get to as many of those as possible. All right, so I asked that. How long does it take for a new construction to be built after the electrical wiring has been done? I would say typically they can give you a closing date, because usually they don't give you a closing date until after the cabinets are in. A lot of the builders, they'll wait for your cabinets to come in before they give you a closing date. So I would say after the cabinets, I'm gonna go by that. After the cabinets, and if the cabinets are in, the walls are in, your electric is in, I would say maybe another month and a half, they should be able to finish that home. When they're able to get inside the home and it's not weather dependent, meaning they've done everything outside, the roof is on, everything is there, they're able to move very quickly inside the home because they don't have to worry about any of the outside elements stopping or pausing their work. So I would say for the most part, they should be able to give you a closing date after the cabinets are installed. And what I see is about a month and a half, your home should be complete. But again, of course, if it's like a huge house, it's going to be different than if it's a smaller home. All right. Does anyone know of grants? Okay, I'm going to ask that question. I don't know that. All right, let's see. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat. Ashlyn says, can closing costs be lower on the closing disclosure than it was on the original disclosure? Yes. Okay, so sometimes your disclosures will, and what she's talking about, everyone, is the lender is going to give you like a disclosure, an estimate of all of your fees, and they'll give that to you pretty much as soon as you go under contract. They're going to disclose all of those things. Now, they can change. Let me give you an example of what one change could be. So they're going to estimate ahead of time your homeowner's insurance before they even get a quote, before you even get a quote from your home insurance company. So they're just going to estimate based on what they've seen in the past, what the averages are, but then they'll tell you to go ahead and get a quote from your homeowner's insurance company. And then when you give them the quote, then they update those numbers to real numbers, right? Because everything else, but prior to that, were estimates. Another thing they're going to estimate, usually, if you don't have a closing date, then they're going to estimate like what day you're going to close. So they may put like August 15th, and you'll have to pay interest for those 15 days, right? So that's also an estimate. But when they get the real closing date, they'll update it. So there are things that can change. It shouldn't be a drastic change though. The estimate should be close to what the actual closing amount is going to be. But and a lot of people don't have the patience, I guess, go line by line with your lender and say, hey, what is this fee? And I've done it. Watch my closing cost videos. I have 2 closing cost videos. One details like an FHA closing cost. The other one details a conventional closing cost. And I go line by line telling you what it is and why you're paying it, what it is and why you're paying it. And that's what you should be doing with your lender. You should be going line by line through your closing disclosure and understanding, what are you paying for? Why are you paying it? And can it change before closing? And why would it change before closing? Okay. And especially if you haven't locked your rate. Sometimes if you are building a home and it's going to take 3 to 4 months to build, and you haven't locked your rate, because a lot of people, can't lock, or it costs more to lock your rate if you're not locking it within like 30 to 45 days, then your rate is floating. So that also can change because your interest rate is changing. All right, good question, Ashlyn. Kanisha says, what about lot premiums? How does that work? Is the lot premium amount added to the home price already? Okay, so they'll have a base price. So say that a certain model home is $100. Let's call it the Hill model. So the Hill model is $100,000, but the Hill model in a cul-de-sac might be a $10,000 lot premium. So if you want to be in a cul-de-sac, right, it's going to be $10,000. And a cul-de-sac is like the end of the street, it dead ends, and it's like a oval. And what's good about that is you don't have as much traffic. If you have children, then they can play in that cul-de-sac and they don't have to worry about too many cars like coming through that street. So a cul-de-sac, and I wrote down a few, so good question. A cul-de-sac typically is going to be a lot premium. I live in a cul-de-sac, and it's a highly desired area of a subdivision is to be in a cul-de-sac. Another one is a corner lot. So corner lots, if you're in the corner, it's usually a larger lot because you don't have a house on one side, the other side of you, right? Because it's a corner lot and you're going to have a little bit more land. Also private lots. So if you back up into trees where it's like, more private or wooded, typically there's a lot premium for that because you don't have another house behind you. So you have a little bit more privacy. Also, if you have a flat backyard, you don't have a lot of slopes, either slopes going up, slopes going down. If you have a flat backyard or a larger lot in general, there may be a premium for that. So when they're listing, and every builder's a little bit different, some builders may not have any lot premiums, but for builders, there'll be a base price of that model home or that floor plan, right? And then they'll have different premiums, and those lot premiums, usually you're going to find one for cul-de-sac lots, corner lots, private lots, and just larger lots that have better, more flat backyards typically. But great question, Kanisha. All right, good questions, you guys. Okay, please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and add that banner up here. So we have 182 people on the chat. If this is your first time here and you like this content, please hit the like button for me. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and take a moment and hit the little thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. It helps my content get out to more people. All right, so let me go back. So when I do that, it goes all the way back to the beginning. So, all right, so I see that. I did the lot premium one. All right, thank you guys. Do you think it's a good time to buy a house? I always get this question during lives. I've done a video, a 2023 video about should you buy a house in 2023. Please watch that video. I'm going to try to stick on new construction questions, but I do that video. I'll probably do another one for the fall. I kind of do them seasonally, but I did answer the question about that. Okay. So Mainframe says our lot premium was not already added to the price, or was. Once we signed the contract, we saw it. It was itemized on the contract. Yeah. So those sometimes they'll already have the final price, right? So, if you're not sometimes building from the ground up, they may have the final price, and then you're looking to see what are all these extra things that they're pricing in. So just make sure, if you can, and builders are being really tricky about this lately as well, get a copy of the contract ahead of time. Get a copy. You don't want the first time that you're coming to sign the contract is the first time you've actually seen the contract. So if you can get a blank copy of the contract ahead of time, ask your agent to ask their agent, or you ask for yourself, can you get a blank copy of the contract ahead of time so you can look at it, review it, and you could see if you have any questions about anything on it. Do not come, time to sign your contract, and that's the first time you've ever seen a contract, this is the first time you've ever looked at it, try to get your contract at least 24 hours ahead of time before you sign anything, before there's, you're putting up earnest money, so you can read it and have any questions answered ahead of time. If you want to, have an attorney look at it, especially if it's a smaller builder, like a lot of the large builders are pretty, easy contracts. I guess I've seen a lot of them, but if they're a smaller builder, you may even want to get a lawyer to look at it. I've done videos about, builders canceling people's contracts. Most new construction contracts are made in the builder's favor. And it's very hard to add amendments to that contract because they have it, where it's written in their favor. As an agent, I know the last DR Horton contract we had didn't have an appraisal contingency. And I was like, okay, we need an appraisal contingency. If this house doesn't appraise and my client doesn't want it, I want them to be able to get their full earnest money back. So we were able to add that as an amendment to the DR Horton contract because it didn't have an appraisal contingency. Those are some of the things your agent can help you with. But if you don't ask and if you don't, advocate for yourself, you're getting what you get. So you have to make sure that you're really looking at that and you're asking the questions ahead of time. But watch my videos about, people that have had their new construction contracts canceled and they get their earnest money back, but they don't get the house. So you make sure you fully understand your contract. Okay. All right, Honeybee, is there a website or method you recommend to find inspectors for new construction? Should I buy my own inspector if the build is already required by the city? Yes. Okay. So great question, Honeybee. Number one, ask your realtor. So your realtor is going to be your best person to recommend inspectors. I give my clients a list. It probably has about 7 inspectors on it, so they can choose their own, but they're all inspectors that I've used in the past. So ask your realtor. If you don't have a realtor, maybe ask a realtor that you were going to use, sometimes just out of professional courtesy. Maybe they'll get your business in the future. They'll give you who they recommend. So that's who you should be using. Number 2, the county or city inspectors. Okay, so the county or building inspectors are supposed to, right, inspect the homes, but for building codes. And don't think they're coming in every, builders are building these houses like 10, 20 at a time. And there's like 1 or 2 county inspectors. Don't think they're going into every single house. They're like doing some spot inspections. They're not detailed. You will never get a copy of it, right? So you can't go to the county like, can I have a copy? Maybe you can, but I've never seen anybody get a copy of the county inspection for their home. And the house that, I was talking about the leak and all that kind of stuff, they had a county inspection, still had that leak in the thing. So just make sure you're getting your own inspection. County inspections do not count. They're just checking, and they're kind of spot checking for any building codes. And a lot of times the builders get very friendly, right? Because they want to get their building permits approved. They want to get everything done. They want to get their certificate of occupancy so they can go ahead and close on the house. If the builder can't get their certificate of occupancy from the county or the city, you can't close. So they become very much friends, right, with the local builder. So they may overlook things that they shouldn't be overlooking. I've had a county, not going to say which one, but they came out the morning of and gave a certificate of occupancy on a house that they hadn't even spent 5 minutes in. So just make sure that you are doing your own due diligence. None of these people work for you. The city inspector doesn't really work for you. They work for the county. They're trying to do what they can, but they're not saying, oh, I want to make sure Honeybee's home is ready for her to move in, right? Hire your own person that's going to be working for you and looking out for your best interest and doesn't have any other conflicts. You pay them the inspection fee. They're doing your inspection for you. I also recommend, say you never get your inspection before your home warranty, your 1-year home warranty runs out. And before, I would say get an inspection then, just to make sure everything's going to be done before your 1-year warranty expires. All right. Good question, Honeybee. All right. Millie, is it typical commission 6% split between the buyer and seller's agent? Is there a seller agent when dealing with a builder? If I'm representing myself as a buyer's agent, will I get that? Good question. Somebody's been watching my videos about representing yourself. Okay. Now I'm say this. Every builder is a little bit different. Some builders use licensed agents. Some builders use employees that don't have a license. So it's sometimes different depending on, what builder you're using. But so let me say this. So some of the employees are just salaried employees and they're working for the builder. They're going to make their salary and probably some commission based on how many they sell, but they may not be a licensed agent. And then some are going to be licensed agents, and the builder will say, hey, if you sell this home, you'll get, it may not be 6%, it may be 5%. 6% is common, but it's not all the time. So let's use 5% as an example. They may tell their licensed agents that work in their sales center that we'll give you 5% for every home you sell, right? And if there's another agent, if the buyer comes with an agent, you have to split that commission with that other agent. So, instead of getting the full 5%, they may get 2.5% because they have to split it with the other agent. There's no scenario where as a buyer representing yourself, you're going to get the full 6% because they're not offering it. They're offering that to their employee, and then their employee, because they're thinking about it like this, they're the listing agent. So they're offering them the commission. And then if you have an agent, right, or if you're representing yourself, they may have to split that amount with you. But there's really no time that you're going to get the full amount unless you are the builder's agent, right? And they may offer you then complete amount. That's why there's no benefit to you not to have an agent. Either that agent's going to get all the commission, or and your person or they're going to have to split the commission with your person, but they're not going to give you some of their commission because you didn't come with an agent unless you're a licensed agent. Hope that made sense. Okay, so let me say that again. There's no benefit to you to not use an agent. They're not going to discount the house for you. They're not going to do anything like that because it's illegal in almost every state for them to pay a non-licensed person a commission. So they're not going to say, oh, we'll take $5,000 off because you don't have an agent. Typically, that's not happening. And yes, Millie, you can do that. If you're a licensed agent, you can do that. All right, let me see what you're saying. Honeybee, what are your thoughts about the best upgrades, interior, exterior, that help a new build home appraise so there's not any appraisal gaps? So for the appraisal, I don't think there's an upgrade necessarily you should get, because you don't want to get more upgrades because they're going to base the value of your house on the homes that have already sold. So you don't want to get more upgrades than what they already have. That is going to be difficult for you to get. So I would just not over improve my property and make it difficult for your house to appraise. That would be mine. So if there's probably going to be limits to what you can do in general. But say, for example, you finish your basement and most of the other homes are not finished basements. That might be difficult for you to get that value on the finished basement when everybody else has unfinished basements, depending on how much extra they charge you for a finished basement. So there's really nothing. I would just make sure I'm not over improving my property above and beyond what's already there. And that's for the even for the future. You're not going to get that value back in the upgrades, because say you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath and it's all carpeted, and you're a 3-bedroom, 2-bath and you have hardwoods everywhere. You're not going to get the value of that hardwood that you sold when most people have carpet, right? Because that has to be something that you want for yourself. Don't think because you paid $20,000 more for your flooring that your house is worth $20,000 more. An appraiser may give you a credit of like $3,000 because they're looking at all of the other properties and what they're worth. They're not going to give you value for value. Whatever you paid for that upgrade, they're not going to give you that value dollar for dollar. Watch my appraisal video. He talks about the things that, they value the most, and it's square footage, it's bedrooms, it's things like that. It's not, fixtures and appliances and things like that. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Make sure you're putting questions. Okay. Kanisha says, is the balance from the design center cost added to the home amount, or is that extra payment at closing? It depends, but typically you can add that to the sales price of your home. So you don't have to pay it separate, like you're rolling it into the price of your house typically. But some builders may ask you to pay, because what they don't want to do. So say you're like Toll Brothers, and Toll Brothers allows you to like pick and choose what you want a lot of times. Say you wanted black cabinets and gold fixtures and, some kind of, funky little, some flooring that was, that you liked, but it wasn't like a standard thing, right? It wasn't like a neutral that a lot of people would like. That's a huge risk for the builder to do something so unique that only a few people will like it. Because if for some reason you decide not to purchase that home, it's going to be difficult for them to sell it because it was made just to like one person's liking. So in order to mitigate some of that risk, they ask you to pay for if not all of that upgrade cost up front, where they won't allow you to roll it into the price of the home. So that's going to vary by builder as to how much risk they're willing to take with your unique upgrades. All right. True Joy says bi-weekly. Is that the best way to pay a 30-year mortgage? How does that help you? When you're paying bi-weekly, you're basically applying more money towards your principal. It winds up being one extra mortgage payment per month because you're basically, there's 52 weeks in the year, but some of them have like an extra 1 month will have like an extra week or so in it. So when you are doing that, you're basically just paying one extra mortgage payment per month. So paying down that principal means you're going to have less interest to pay over the long term. So depending on how high your interest rate is, the more years it'll take off your mortgage. But generally, it'll be between 4 and 7 years off of your mortgage if you pay bi-weekly or if you pay one extra mortgage payment per month. That is the benefit of it. You want to make sure if you're making bi-weekly payments that your mortgage company is applying that to your principal. Because if they do not, all you're doing is prepaying your mortgage. So they'll just apply it ahead of time, but they're not applying it to your principal. So you want to make sure if you're doing that, don't just do it. Make sure it's set up to be paid towards your principal when you make that payment. Good question. All right, go ahead and put your questions in. When do you find out how much your mortgage payment will be? You should find out as soon as you do your pre-approval. And I say that because when you get a pre-approval, say that you did your pre-approval, you got approved for $500,000. And most lenders stop there. They're like, congratulations, you got approved for $500,000. But that doesn't tell you what your mortgage payment would be on a $500,000 home in your area, because taxes are huge. Like taxes are a big part of that payment. So taxes in one city or one area may be drastically different from taxes in another city or another area. So as soon as you get your pre-approval, your next thing out of your mouth to your lender should be, oh, could you please provide me with a loan estimate? And they're like, oh, they may say, oh, we'll give you one of those once you're under contract. No, lender. I need one now so I have an idea of what this mortgage payment is going to be, because I know that you're telling me I can afford a $500,000 house, but what does that look like in different areas once the taxes are added? So what you need to do is give them a city and a zip code. That'll help them to know, so they can calculate those taxes for you and say, I need an estimate on a $500,000 house at today's interest rates at this city and zip code, and they can give you one of those immediately or very shortly after they give you the pre-approval. Okay. If you get my course, if you get my guide now, I give you 3 examples of loan estimates, one for VA, FHA, and conventional. So you can see what one looks like and what you should be expecting from your lender. All right, good question. Will USDA cover new construction? Yes. So USDA is 100% financing. If they're building new construction in a USDA area, then your down payment is covered. All you have to do is worry about your closing costs. Good question. All right, so let me see what else. Somebody says, okay, Lisa says, hello, Shahida. Wow, I caught a live. Hey, should be going to closing in September on new construction. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. Let's get it. All right, let's see. Denise or Denise, if you are under contract and the builder changes their loan interest for the promotional reason, can you request that interest rate? If you are under contract and the builder changes their loan interest for, okay. This is a tricky one, you guys, okay? Because you're under contract without the promotion. And I think what Denise is saying is she's under contract. Then the builder says, we have a promotion that we're offering to everybody now. And can you apply it? So, and I'm not a lawyer, so I would say ask a lawyer, but this is kind of my non-legal advice, is you need to ask, because and let me say a couple of things for anybody else that this may happen to. You could write a stipulation in your contract, or ask about a stipulation in your contract that any promotions in the time, that's not legal, a legal wording, but any promotions that are offered during the time period before closing, I will be, would be applied to me or available to me. So if you're worried that, the builder may offer something to other people after you go under contract, you can put some wording like that. Now, if they do not want to add that wording to the contract, then you may, think that, hey, they may be offering something later that I may not be, eligible for. But I would say they're probably not obligated to give it to you because you're under contract without that promotion, but it's definitely something you can ask. I would definitely probably do a consultation with an attorney. And a lot of times what I do for my clients, because, closing attorneys get most of their business from real estate agents, putting their names on contracts to close. So anytime I'm having issue, I can email like attorneys and say, hey, just need some advice. I have a client that this is happening to. What should we do? And then I kind of go from there without my client having to pay for that advice, if that makes sense. So I would, number one, if I'm worried that this may happen to my client, I'm going to try to get some wording in initially that they'll be eligible for any future promotions if those come up prior to closing. I would ask the new construction, the builder, for that. And also, if I'm at this, so say, I guess you're saying, now they're offering maybe a 1% rate buy down or some other, maybe they're offering $20,000 in closing costs. You're not eligible for that. So yes, I'm probably at this point, I would ask if I can get that promotion. If they say no, I'm going to ask an attorney. How can I get out of this contract? Maybe. But all of those things I would do before I just say, like, I'm not eligible for it. But if you can, so if you're not under contract yet, those of you that are thinking about new construction, if they're not offering a promotion and you feel like in the future they might, see if you can get that added to your contract. Good question, Denise. All right. Wendell, how can realtors use their website to make, how can realtors use their website to make it known to the public? I mean, once you have a website, it's out there for the public. So if you're thinking more about the promotion of it, then you probably can just, pay for Google ads. And so when they're putting in, so say you're in Houston and they're putting in Houston real estate agent, then you could pay for your website to come up higher in search. That can be an idea. I think that's what you're talking about, Wendell. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Ask this question. TM says, is asking for carpet to be changed to hardwood flooring for wheelchair accessibility an upgrade or an access request? Okay, so it's probably an upgrade because, a lot of builders, depending on the disability, like with what they have to modify for disability, you have to talk to that individual builder. I don't know for sure if you have a disability, if this is something they have to do, but you can check with them ahead of time. These are things that you ask ahead of time. If you fall under like the Disability Act and that sort of thing, I would think it's still an upgrade for you to get, but I may be wrong. So this is something I would ask the builder ahead of time that I'm thinking about building with, and tell them, you fall under, maybe this protected class, and whether or not you would have to pay for the upgrade of getting that carpet removed. But good question. Maurice says, Mrs. Hill, would you please give a basic example of a buyer who's a strong candidate for purchasing a new construction home? I don't think there's a difference, right? I don't think there's a difference between, it's all about approval. So if I'm approved for a mortgage and I'm approved, say, for $300,000, I could buy a new construction home for $300,000. I could buy a resale home for $300,000. There's no like higher standard for a new construction home than it is for a resale home. It's just about your approval, and is the amount that you're approved for, are people building new construction homes in your area at that price range. There's no higher standard for somebody to get a new construction build than it is for somebody to buy a resale. I would say in some cases, and I would say in all cases, I like my clients to look at both if they can, because some people just have new construction in their heads. Like I have a client, I'm not living in somebody else's house and I want everything to be new. And there are pros and cons to everything. So for example, a lot of new construction builds are built on smaller lots. So you're not going to get in a lot of cases a big lot, where if you go to a home maybe built 10 years ago, they built them farther apart typically, because I don't know, maybe the land cost at that time was more affordable. The expectation where people were going to get a larger lot. So say you do want a big backyard, sometimes you're not finding that with new construction homes. You may have to go to a resale to get the size lot that you want. So I always tell people, to look at both. You can make the final decision to say, okay, I want new construction, I don't want resale, but I would at least explore. Like tell your agent, hey, you know what? I want to look at new construction and I want to look at some resales. And then you make a final decision as to what makes the most sense to you. But yeah, there's no higher standard to get new construction versus resale. Miss Smile says, is a lot premium the same as a home site? I think when we say lot premium, we're talking about a extra charge for that home, for that floor plan that the builder's charging based on where it is. A home site is just where they're placing your house. So some home sites may have lot premium, some home sites may not have lot premium. A lot of the builders, I'm finding, they'll give a premium to every home site or something, but then the lot premium is a little bit more for those premium home sites, like those cul-de-sacs, those corner lots, those private lots, things like that. All right, good question. Okay, let's see. Hey, DeJarvis. Ms. Shahida, I'm also an agent here in Georgia. Hey, can you explain to everyone what a spec home is for those that don't know pertaining to new? Okay, good question. All right, so a spec home is a home that is already like where the builder chooses everything. You choose nothing. They decide, the builder says, this house is going to be gray with black shutters, with LVP flooring, that's going to be charcoal with white cabinets and, white quartz countertops. They choose everything in that house. They price it out. It's called a spec home. A spec home, you chose nothing. It was just built, or they decided what it was and you decided to buy it. Where a non-spec home, more of a custom or maybe semi-custom home, you're actually choosing what you want. A lot of builders, again, to save money, are speccing out all the homes. And so they'll say, okay, we have these 10 homes. This is what this one's going to look like. And this, all of them are kind of specced out. And then you just have the choice, right, of picking which one you want. Like my client wanted white cabinets, and they were all specced out. So they had to just choose. They had 3 lots or 4 lots with white cabinets. So they had to pick from those 4 lots with white cabinets, what their outside was going to look like, what their, all of that stuff was going to look like. But I'm finding more and more builders, unless you're like at a higher, like a luxury price point, or if you are at, just a higher price point, a lot of people are speccing out or choosing ahead of time what your property is going to look like, and you just have the you just can just choose which lot you want. But they already know, the builder already knows what's going to be on that lot, because it helps them like purchase everything in mass, right? So they know how many homes are going to get what, and they purchase all of that stuff ahead of time. Okay, good question, Jarvis. I'll put you up here again. Good question. All right, Kanisha she gave me a super chat. Thank you, Kanisha. I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to do a few more. All right. Oh, she answered that question. You're good. You're good. You're good. All right. I'm going to answer 5 more questions. So hopefully it's already 7 o'clock. So I'm going through. Okay. So Millie, you didn't get your license yet? I thought you already licensed. Let me see. Any advice for a first-time buyer becoming a new agent to buy new construction? I know some brokers may have mentoring programs, but is this wise for me to do? I don't want the builder getting over on me. Okay, so I've already done the video on this. Yeah, I'm thinking ahead, Millie. I've done a video. I've done like 2 videos on this about representing yourself. I did a live on it, and then I think I just did a regular video about it, about representing yourself. So this is the thing. As a new agent with most brokers, right? With most brokers, they're going to assign you a mentor. They're not going to allow you to just go out there, like you said, having the builder get over on you. Most, they require you to have a mentor. And that mentor will walk you through that process. And you probably have to give them a small amount of your commission, but it will be valuable to you. Even when I was making the transition, I've been licensed since 2003. So I'm going on 20 years of having my real estate license. But I started teaching during that time. And so I was kind of like out of practice. So when I got back in the business, I had a mentor for my first 3 transactions, and I worked them to death. I was like, this changed. I didn't see this, because things had changed since I had been, an agent. So I asked them every question. What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So you'll have that person that's going to be able to mentor you through those first few transactions. So, but watch those videos that I have. I have 2 about representing yourself, under the live tab and then under the regular tab. But good question. And what Millie's talking about, for those of you that haven't watched those videos, if I was just, trying to give you guys any kind of options about saving money, because right now affordability is a huge issue. And so if you want to represent yourself, if you're interested in real estate and you want to represent yourself, the commission that you would earn on a property can go towards your closing costs and your down payment with most lenders. So if that's something that you've been thinking about, why not do it, on your transaction? And then you can help, your family members and other people after that. But yeah. Oh, Miss Amra already got it. She up on it. She represent yourself. She already got it. Jay says, are builders still making buyers sign an escalation clause? I'm seeing less and less of this because there's not as much. There's still demand, but I'm not seeing this crazy demand that it was. And for new construction homes, and the supply cost and all of that has evened out, because they were having like lumber challenges, and lumber was going through the roof, that sort of thing. Those things have kind of bottomed out. So the last few contracts, I haven't seen any escalation clauses. And what an escalation clause is basically saying that your contract is for $400,000. However, if our costs go up, then it could, your price of your home could also go up. And so during the pandemic, when demand was crazy, a lot of builders had escalation clauses in there saying that they could raise the price of your contract pretty much at any time. So you want to look out for that in your contract, just in case builders are still trying to like throw those in there. But definitely understand everything in your contract and try to get a copy of that contract ahead of time. Thank you, Honeybee. Hey, hit that like button. Who's Lisa? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That was my 1. I'm losing track. So that was 1 of my 5 that I already answered. Mao Lao. Could a garage be an upgrade that a builder would add on? If a house is going to be built with a garage, it's typically going to be part of the floor plan. So that's not an upgrade. Like the floor plan should have a garage. A garage door opener. Things like a garage door opener, or maybe some, Sometimes painting the garage, if they don't paint the inside of the garage, things like that might be upgrades, but a garage itself should not be an upgrade, because in the floor plan, it should say whether or not this house is going to have a garage, right? So typically garages are not upgrades. All right, good question. Alicia says, how long would you say a home has to be on the market before you should put a lower offer on the home? I'm gonna give it 30 days. In Georgia, I'm gonna give it 30 days. So everybody is gonna be a little bit different as to their average days on the market. But if a house is, I have a video on this. It's called, I don't know the name of it. Something about an offer. What did I name it? I name my videos sometimes crazy things, but I think I named it something about an offer. But I basically did the same video. I said like when you should, offer a lower price. So watch that video. Don't know what I named it. Maybe Miss Amara can find it. But I remember the thing. I'm just like, don't offer too much, basically, right? So I would say 30 days at least, right, for it to be on the market. And you can see if it's getting activity. I tell you how to, do that hack, like how many people are seeing that house, that sort of thing. But again, it's going to vary by your area. So if the average, say on average, the days on the market is 60, then it may be above 60 for your area. But if the average days on the market is like 10 for the area, and this home has been on the market for 25 or 30, then I'm not offering full price because there's not a lot of demand for that house, right? So, but I did a video on this. I promise, Alicia, just check it out. Watch my I probably did it like in December or so of last year. All right, so that's question number 3. All right, you're asking a question. I'm not going to count this, but buying down your rate. Okay, so a rate is what I'm trying to say. A par rate is whatever the market is offering or the lender is offering. So say rates are 7%. You can buy down that rate to as low as you want, but there's going to be a price for you to pay to buy down that rate. And that's at any time. Even during like when rates were 3%, you can say, well, I want 1%. The builder can tell you, and not the builder, the lender can tell you how much it would cost you to buy down the rate from 3% to 1%. Okay, so that's buying down a rate. And I have videos on buying down your rate, points, that sort of thing. So what builders are doing now, or what some builders are doing now to incentivize people to buy and to make the home more affordable, say interest rates are at 7%, a lot of them are buying the interest rate down like 1 point or a point and a half. They're buying down that rate. So they're paying for you to get a lower rate. So that's what they're talking about. And you can do the reverse. So say you need help with your closing costs. If you need help with your closing costs, and say your rate is 7%, but you need to bring, you don't want to bring another $1,000 or so to closing, you can increase your rate. So say I'll increase my rate to 7.25, and then they can give you a credit to your closing cost. So it can go both ways. If you can buy down your rate, or you can increase your rate to get a credit at closing. But watch my points video. I explain that, how it goes. But good question. All right, 2 more, you guys, 2 more. All right. And thank you for helping me in the chat with all of those links. All right. All right. I'm trying to do new construction questions. All right. Let me look at this question. Would you rather get a home that's $200,000 and do a $100,000 renovation loan? Let me think about that. $100,000 renovation loan, or a $300,000 new house? Let's say the square foot of the home is similar to one another. Okay. If the house, this is the thing with the renovation in this example that you're giving me. If at the end of the renovation, the house is still only worth $300,000, I'm probably going to get the $300,000 new house, because what's the difference, right? I just went through a lot of headache trying to get this house renovated. Typically, when somebody's doing this 200 and 300K, the renovation, the house may be worth $500,000 by the time you finish it. Because if you're buying a house that needs $100,000 in renovation, then you're typically going to get a deal on that house to begin with. So once you get the deal on that house, then when you put the $100,000 into it, it should be worth more than $300,000 typically. Okay. So if I am doing, if at the end of when I renovate it, it's still only worth 300,000, I'll just buy the $300,000 new house because I'll avoid all the renovation and the old, and plus that older home, I'm assuming, right, that the other home is older. So the appraisal is going to be, so say that house is built in the 80s, right? And this house that you're buying is built in 2023. The appraisal is still going to favor that new construction home over time. Then it's going to favor that renovated home over time. So if I'm seeing what's going to appraise, higher in the future, it's probably going to be the new construction home than the renovated home that's older, unless it's in like a really like a much better neighborhood or something, right? Then that new construction home is going to probably be valued more over time because it's not as old as a renovated home. Because even though it's renovated, it's still old, right? So that's my answer to that. Good question, Herb. All right, one more question. Oh, Houston. All right, if y'all need a home in Houston, I know this agent that's very, very good. Y'all may want to check out her channel. Thank you guys for joining me. All right, let me see. Okay, Kiki did a super chat, so she might be my last person. Okay, Kiki, do you love me? Oh, I can't sing, y'all. I had my credit pulled. Kiki, thank you for the super chat. I had my credit pulled recently by loan officers. I had too many inquiries. I have about 4 accounts to clear up. Not sure how to move forward. Okay. Now, Kiki, I don't know if you watched me for a long time or not. So I'm gonna take you like as a new person to, this channel. When you had them pulled, I'm sorry, the loan officers, no, they're lenders. It was probably for a pre-approval, correct? Probably, right? They should be telling you what to do, right? Because if they didn't approve you for the loan because you had too many inquiries, let them tell you how you need to clean it up. Because a couple of things, if you did them with all in a short period of time, it should not have impacted your credit that much. And I've done these videos over and over again. If you are shopping for a mortgage and you do them within either a 14-day period is ideal, but usually it's a 30-day period. If you did them within a short time period, the multiple inquiries should not have impacted your credit that much. So I don't know. And you said you have 4 accounts to clear up. I'm asking one of those lenders to tell me how I should prioritize. What should I prioritize? What do I need to prioritize? Because they pulled your credit. They have credit simulators. Almost all lenders, mortgage lenders, have credit simulators that say what you should do first to get to where you need to be credit-wise. You need to do this, this, this. This is how much you need to pay. This is when you need to pay it. This is how much your credit should improve by you doing this. So I'm going back to the lenders and I'm saying, hey, because they already pulled your credit, you don't need to pull it anymore. Say, do you have a credit simulator? What should I do next? How can I get where I need to be in the amount of time? Whether you need a lower debt to income ratio, whether you need to have a higher credit score, the lenders that you've already used should be able to give you exactly a step-by-step plan of what you need to do. Watch my video that I did with Kevin, the lender. We kind of walked through that process with you guys. It's a live that I did. It was Don't Wait to Get Pre-Approved. That live, we kind of talked about that in detail. But one of those lenders, I don't know how many lenders, you said by loan officer, say it was 2 people. One, if not both, you should go back to and say, what is my plan? They can't just say you're denied, right? What is my plan to get where I need to be to purchase in the near future? Be it debt to income ratio, what should I pay off first? Or credit, what should I do first? But I think hopefully that answers your question, Kiki. All right, you guys. I'm making sure. All right, so after this live, so hit the like and subscribe. Hit the like. I got 215 people now. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe. After this video airs, I'm going to have all of the questions that I answered time-stamped. If you want to put your question in the comments, I'll probably come back and answer as many as possible. Somebody said, Ms. One says, an older home still have lead pipes. So if it's the difference, let me go back to that question. Herb asked a good question. If it's between buying a new construction or a resale, that's the same square footage, worth the same amount, I'm going new construction. Okay. The resale has to give me some added benefit, a larger lot, more bedrooms, more square footage. And typically in most areas, the newer homes at the same price are smaller than the resale homes. So you should have a benefit of buying a better price, more square footage, bigger lot, if I'm going to buy a resale versus the new construction. But if they're both the same price, go with the new construction. All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Have a great night. Hit the like button before you get off. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.